It is 10 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. Here in the beautiful island Dominica. Good night, everyone, wherever you are, tuned in and locked into the program tonight. It is a pleasure to be here with you for another In the Spotlight radio show program. Good night to the folks who are live on Facebook. I see you all are coming on like crazy. Good night to all of you. Good night to the folks who are listening in the diaspora. Gordon and Shannon in Paris. I know you all are always locked in and tuned in. The folks in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Nice to have you tuned in and locked in tonight. Gail, good night. Miss Jen, good night to you too. My brother Bernard, always tuned in. Good night to you. Good night to Judy, Sabina, and all the other folks who are spread out around the world, who tune in and lock in every Monday night. And my lovely Dominicans, those who are right here at home, who make the effort every Monday night to join us for the In the Spotlight radio show. We thank you. Alex Bruno in Miami, good night to you, my dear. Looking forward to hearing from you later on in the program as well. Acknowledging our sponsors for tonight, we have the Rudolph Thomas and Company Limited for his domestic flow, and the Madame Wop Duet competition in Canada, taking place in Canada. We also want to say thanks to the folks at the Garraway Hotel. The Garraway Hotel, by the way, is the official hotel of the In the Spotlight radio show. We thank you for supporting us. We want to say thank you to the folks of Innovate Multimedia. We thank you for choosing this program to give your support in terms of your artistic skills. We really do appreciate the work that you do for the program. We want to say thank you to Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited for supporting us as well, Dominica News Online, and all the other folks who support the In the Spotlight radio show. I always have to mention Chemo got us this stand here that the good folks at home who are live on Facebook or wherever they are can actually tune in and see the guests in the programs without our hands holding a phone and checking all through. So thank you for that, Chemo, and thank you for Q95 for allowing us to be here on a Monday night to do this program. Remember, always, if you want to support in whatever way, feel free to support the continuation of the airing of this program. I must say, I have no issues coming from Q95, so as long as, you know, I think I want to carry on this program, Mr. G will certainly allow me to do so. We're taking a break. When we come back, our guest tonight, the newly elected leader of the Dominica Freedom Party, Mr. Kent Vital. You don't know much about him, some of you say. I don't know much about him either. We're going to find out who this gentleman is, who this brave gentleman is who dares take on the leadership of the Dominica Freedom Party. Keep it locked. We're coming right back in just a moment.
Mommy, can I have a kitty tablet this summer, please?
Child, no. I have to work on one month to pay for your school items and my education so that we can have a good life.
Don't worry, the National Cooperative Credit Union offers a Learn While You Earn loan on very special terms. You can work and further your education. Let NCCU finance your education. Affordable monthly payments, no fees, and free loan protection coverage. We also provide loans to study overseas and to cover school expenses so your kids can be ready for September.
Mommy, can I please get the tablet?
Paracetamol.
Mama!
Just kidding. Okay.
Apply at any NCCU branch today for your Learn While You Earn loan. Call 255-2172 or visit our website at www.nccudominica.com.
Watch out summer and activate a 7-day or higher data or combo plan and win all summer long with Flow. Dial *129# and *129# to activate and win. Win cash, free credit and data, free services, free on-net calls, free internet international minutes, and more every week. Watch out summer, and win with Flow.
Flow terms and conditions apply. Draws take place weekly.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready. The 2017 Team Madame Cultural Pageant is coming. Sunday, September 10th at the Taipei Economic and Cultural Center at 888 Progress Avenue, Scarborough in Toronto, Canada. Showtime start at 2 p.m. sharp. Come see the Je l'Etoile, the adorable young stars and their lovely walk duets. The Team Madame Cultural Pageant, Sunday, September 10th. Entertainment, dance, culture, cuisine, all for just $20 for adults and $5 for children. Our adorable contestants will thrill you with their energy and style. Come see Dominica's own young stars in the 2017 Team Madame Cultural Pageant, Sunday, September 10th at the Taipei Economic Cultural Center. That's 888 Progress Avenue in Scarborough, Toronto, Canada.
Sponsored by Q95, the big station.
Raise a cheer for the company that believes in you, securing your future. First Domestic Insurance Company, a 100% Dominican-owned company, as local as the street where you live. 100% secure, with A-listed reinsurers, the best in the world, settling claims first, fast, fair. Property insurance, personal content, fire and allied perils, loss of profit, public liability, employer's liability, group and individual personal accident, travel, burglary, cash in transit, machinery all risk, fidelity guarantee, motor vehicles and marine cargo, located on King George Brett Street in Rosal. Call 449-8202. In Portsmouth, 445-3494. The agency's resource management, 440-2159. Tarrant Interconnect, 445-8232. First Domestic Insurance Company. Come get premium coverage today.
My tablet is just not working for me. I don't know what's wrong. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Turn it off and turn on again.
Reading from an excerpt there from the writings of Alex Bruno. Freedom Party is back. This recent media headline caught my attention and I am forced to react. I begin by asking the question, freedom is back from where? Allow me to answer that. Freedom Party never left. In fact, the party is still solidly in existence and is kept alive through the vision of its founders, the philosophical spirits of its pillars, and its well-intentioned members, friends, supporters, and affiliates. We'll hear some more from that article written by Alex, who is actually a student of political studies, and that was kind of interesting. Freedom Party is back. Freedom Party is back from where? Good night to you, Kent Vital.
Good night.
How are you?
I am doing well. Happy to be here. Happy to be having a conversation with you, Fadina.
It is a pleasure to have you. I'll say something before we continue our conversation tonight, because that's what we're going to have. When I mentioned that you were going to be on this program tonight, someone said, basically was asking me on social media, why am I trying to help revive a dead horse? And I'll allow you to comment on that, but I just want to say here that this program, the In the Spotlight radio show, is a show, as the promos say, it's all about the stories and the lives of our people. Kent Vital, a couple Saturdays ago, was elected as the new leader of the Dominica Freedom Party. As a responsible host of a program that I want persons to know who our people are, I felt that it was my responsibility to bring you on this program and to allow the that is what we're here about tonight. And I just want to say to the folks who are calling my phone, please do not call or WhatsApp or anything at the moment, because the phone is actually being used for the live on Facebook, and when you do that, it sort of interrupts the coverage of that. But Kent, I'm going to call you Kent.
Yeah,
is that okay?
That is more than okay.
All right. Yes, so apparently, you know, I'm aiding in the process of reviving a dead horse, and we're going to talk about that. But I'm going to allow you first to say good evening and good night to the folks who are listening.
Yes, good evening and good night. Indeed, real nice to be here. It's my absolute pleasure. But even before we go on, and most of you will be listening to CNN, and you will be hearing about Texas and the Hurricane Harvey and the impact it's having on that state. And we in Dominica all too well know about hurricanes. Just 2 years ago, we had our fair share with Katrina. No, not Katrina, sorry. Erica. We had our fair share with that. But, you know, those of us who are old enough will remember Hurricane David, which was totally different. I mean, it was pure devastation. If you want to know what devastation is like, you would have had to leave during the time of Hurricane David. That was just something else. So those of us who are of that age, we understand what devastation really is, and our hearts go out to the people of Texas. I'm not sure how many Dominicans live out there. I hope that they are fine, that they're doing well. If they could connect and tell us how they're doing, that would be nice. But just my heart goes out to the people, even if you're not a Dominican, but my heart goes out because I know that these are really trying times. From the last I saw, over 2,000 rescues done, and still the situation is still worsening in some parts. So just wanted to say that, especially in the heels of the anniversary of Hurricane David, August 29th, which is tomorrow. And, you know, we're just remembering that, and our hearts going out to them. But real pleasure being here and looking forward to our conversation tonight.
Why is it, Kent Vital, important for the Dominicans in particular to get to know who you are?
Right. Well, you know, we need to get to know each other anyway, because we need to get along. I remember this old situation in the US, you know, with this black guy, and he sang the song about getting along. When I remember it, I'll say it again. I'll repeat it. But generally, we need to get to know each other, because basically, we are not in this world alone anyway, and we are each other's keeper, and that's something I always say. We all share this common space. We all share this beautiful nation, and we all have a responsibility to take care of it. We all have a responsibility to take care of each other. I mean, sometimes we foolishly think that we live in this world all by ourselves, that somehow our success is due just to our own efforts. I mean, imagine being a businessman and doing very well and being able to be in Dominica and earn $1 million. Now you beat your chest and like, wow, oh wow, really? Take off every single person from Dominica and let me see where are you going to earn $1 million. We need the customers. You have to appreciate them. You know, I mean, take off the people who go to catch the fish. Sorry?
Go ahead.
You know, remove the fishermen. Tell me how you're going to enjoy that $1 million you have made. Tell me how you're going to have a nice meal. So we have to recognize that we are not here alone, and that together we all have our parts to play in building this beautiful nation. And I definitely want to play my part. And therefore, in seeking to play my part, I would love people to know what I bring to the table, what I would love to do, how I'd like to work with my people to take us to the places that we can go. And we need to do it together. It's not just about me. It's not just about the Freedom Party, but I think it's about all of us.
All right, let us first though begin by getting to know who you are. So I know of the Vitals and so on, but I wasn't sure that I knew Kent Vital. And then I heard your name pop up, and I looked at the gentleman and I said, to me, I don't really know this gentleman though, but we're gonna get to know him.
Yes.
So let us start off by finding out your background. Tell us from whence thou cometh.
Okay, how far back do you want to go? When I was born?
We can start there.
We can start there. But right, so let's start there. That's a good place to start because there are great fond memories from growing up in Roseau Central, River Street, Hillsborough Street. That's my stomping ground. The Market Square, these were areas we used to lime and go around the Botanical Gardens as little boys going out there. In the gardens playing, running, going up the 35 steps, going up to Monbrose, Palm Grove, going up to Palm Grove, looking for coconuts and going to the river, all the various beautiful spots along the river. These were healthy experiences. These were good memories. Growing up in Roseau and getting involved, looking at football, remembering our favorite teams like Kensborough, they had the first three letters of my name, K-E-N, and later Kens, but you always have to have respect for the great team of Harlem. Those were days when there was healthy football and healthy competitions, I know, and kudos to the Dominica Football Association. They're still keeping it healthy and nice, and there's a lot happening there, but these were the great days, and days when we used to have blocks and used to call them names like tokers. That's what my group around Hillsborough Street that I was a part of. So these were great days growing up, going to the Rosa Boys School first, and then later on going to the Danco Grammar School. That was the year we started school, was the year of the hurricane actually, 1979. Oh. That was that year, and it was a very, very, very interesting year. That was the year when Silver Lake was born, by the way, because before that there was a beautiful area where we used to go to swim called Silver Lake. Then after the hurricane, there were a number of persons who lost their homes, and there were tents in the gardens, and then when they were subsequently removed from the gardens, many of them were placed in Silver Lake. So that's where that community came from. But that year was a very interesting year for many of us who entered school, and notwithstanding the hurricane, it was a very fun year. I remember that was the year with Ozzy Savre when he was our form teacher then. I was 1-5, I believe I was in then. And there was the birth of the DBS. Was it the first year of the DBS song competition? I'm not sure if it was the first year. It may have been. I think it may have been the first year when the DBS Christmas song competition started, and Grammar School won. We won with, someone could correct me if I'm wrong there, but I remember Bernice Balso then was a very popular singer in school, and she sang "You Like an Angel," and she sang, "Come everyone, join the Christmas festival. Do like us, the DGS students, and have a Christmas ball." So these were just great years. So great friends, great friendships going from grammar school. This was a powerhouse then, grammar school in football.
That's my album.
Yeah, we had. I think at one time during my time, I didn't play football at that high level, but we had teams that made it to almost. I think if my memory serves me right, they made it to the first division level. These were the great days, and school was a foundation element in my life, the grammar school in particular. Many great friends, and many of them are not here, like many of them overseas in the diaspora, and I know many of them still want to make a contribution and will make a contribution. And but these were that's my background. I grew up in a large family. I have about 7 brothers by both mom and dad. Six other brothers and my sister. So we grew up in a large family, on River Street. So we were taught to respect in our family, taught to respect authority, to respect teachers, to respect the police. We were taught to be prideful. We were taught to take pride in what we do, to value education. And many of us in our family did well.
I heard.
Right? So we were given a lot by our family, and we were given a lot by this nation, and and we need to give back. And certainly, this is our country. Our memories are here. Our people are here. Our families are here. Our families in terms of blood relations, but clearly it's our family, even if it's not blood relation. But we have a common country that we need to protect. So giving back means doing everything we can, thanking this country for the great experience, the great life it has given us, knowing that we want to preserve what we had is precious, and we don't want to lose it. Now let me tell you part of what we don't want to lose. Yes, we don't want to lose the environment for sure. We want to continue to go to the rivers and enjoy the beaches. We don't want to lose that. But you know what else we don't want to lose? We don't want to lose the kind of gentle country we have. The kind of country where we respected each other, where people didn't fly off the handle so easily, where there wasn't that much anger in people. Maybe there were not many vehicles, maybe there were not internet and all of these modern things, but people seem to have been more gentle. We seem to have a society that was more considerate, where we're playing of loud music and indiscriminate playing of loud music without regard for your neighbors wasn't as much of an issue as it seemed to be these days. Road rage and many things that we see today, somehow the atmosphere is changing. And we don't want to lose that. We want to bring that back where it was, as the old adage said, it was a community raising children, and school, and where teachers had the authority to really help families to raise children. Where there was so much respect within the school setting, and there was so much respect for each other. The social fabric was beautiful. Not that it was perfect, but clearly I've seen quite a bit of deterioration, and we need to bring that back. And I think we can. And I think often it starts with the head. I know we have cultural influences and cultural penetration that we need to have strategies to address this, but certainly we also need to have good role models. We also need to have people of integrity leading governments, because they have a role not just in creating wealth, not just in generating income, but also in creating the kind of society that we want, in creating the kind of socially cohesive societies that we do need and we do cherish, and is an important part of quality of life. Quality of life is not just about being able to earn $1 million. It's also about how we interact with our fellow men. It's also about how we protect the environment as well. So I'm very big into sustainable development. It's not just about the economic dimension.
All right, and we're going to talk about that later on in the program as well. But I want to go back down the family line, and I want to learn about your parents, the persons who molded you into you and your siblings into what you all emerged to be. So let's hear about your mom and your dad.
Yes.
And you smile.
Yes. I smile because I just remember my father, but I'll get to that in a while. Let me start with my mom. My mom was a lovely lady. She's actually from Riviera Zurich. So let me say hello to all my folks in Riviera Zurich. We were not raised there, but we always had relatives there. And on a holiday, I used to go up there sometimes, helping them with bananas and going through and having bananas for lunch because I love bananas that much. But my mom was from Riviera Zurich. She came down to Roseau when she was pretty young. She had one other sister, and they both came to Roseau. And I suppose that somewhere along the way she met this beautiful man who became my father. Right, but I remember my father fondly because I think a lot of my inspiration comes from him. A lot of the way we are as a family comes from him. I remember him as a jack of all trades. And in those days, our parents didn't have access to education like we do, so many didn't have a chance to go to university and get a first degree or second degree and so on. Many of them were tradespeople, so they got involved in whatever, carpentry. But I remember my father being a jack of all trades. He could almost do anything. He painted, he did carpentry, he did whatever he needed to do, and he did it well. And towards the end, he was into shoes. He was a shoemaker. But my father was a jack of all trades. But what I remember him fondly for is the many things he did at home to help himself. And that often I find myself doing some of the same things. And I'll give you an example of that. But he built furniture at home. And at one time, I remember just yesterday I was giving someone the story that we came on and we started talking about baking and bread and so on. So I was giving them the story that, I remember my father making an oven at home. I mean, remember we lived in Roseau. Yeah, we're not in the country to say he could have made it out of earth or whatever. We were in Roseau. And I remember he getting metal and shaping this nicely and creating this lovely oven that we baked from. So that's the kind of man I remember my father being. A man who didn't depend on anyone to give him a handout, who did what he needed to do at the time he needed to do, and did it for the most part very well. And saying that, just looking back, I remember sometime in Barbados, we were at home and we needed I'm an economist by training, so I'm not a carpenter or anything like this. But I remember we needed a TV stand, and we went out to look for one, and those we saw, my wife and I, those we saw, they were not very nice. Those we saw that for the price that we wanted to pay, they were not very nice.
They were not in your taste.
They were not in okay, stand corrected. They were not in my taste. And those we really saw that were really nice, they were very expensive.
Okay.
I said, you know something? I'm going to make this. I'm going to make one. And I think that came from my father. That's the kind of man he was, right? I said, I'm going to make this. So I borrowed some tools from a friend of mine at work at CDB at the time. And we made it. And we teasingly used to ask people, you know, there's a place that sells this high-end, nice furniture in Barbados, Walker's World. So we, you know, sometimes we entertain and people would come home and they would say, wow, that's nice. And then I would jokingly say to them, guess where I bought this? And they'd say, Walker's World. I would say, yeah.
Walker's World at your home.
And then, of course, a few seconds later, I would say, no, man, I made this. And they'd go, wow. But that was, to me, the spirit of my father. That was the kind of man he was. And he provided for his family. He provided for every single one of us nicely as he could. We were by no means rich, but he did everything he can. As a matter of fact, I characterize our family. I don't want to use the word poor because we never considered ourselves poor, but by the words, by, you know, I mean, we would definitely didn't have a lot. And at Christmas time, we would make our own toys. And well, you know, again, you remember those of
Trolley.
Exactly, and the sack and all of that. We'd make our own stuff, you know. I mean, I guess there were families who could afford to buy a few other things, the guns and so on, you know. But we would,
toy guns.
Toy guns, not the real guns. Yeah, but that was our family. My father was just a man who was just amazing. And my mom supported him with her whole heart. She was a beautiful lady. She would give the shit out of her back. You know something I remember about our parents as well? You know, they would put us first. They would sacrifice everything to ensure that we did well, that we had enough to eat, that we went to school, and they would do everything. I remember my mom being a lady that would not eat until all of us have eaten. Well, I hope every parent is like that, but you know, but that kind of family love is important. You know, the family is very, very important because you see, in the family setting, not only is it important to provide for children in terms of their physical needs, but it's very, very important to allow our children to grow up in the way that they should go without being damaged, without having psychological issues, a proper grounding. And I think that's what we got. We got a real proper grounding in our family, and that's due to my mom and to my dad. And of course we had I had several brothers who were older than me whom I looked up to, like Ozzy and Austin.
How are they? Tell me a little bit about them. Not much, you don't have to spend much time.
Everyone is different,
Everyone
you know?
is different.
Yeah, but Ozzy is the oldest, and Ozzy's a great guy, you know? And
where is he?
Ozzy's here. All my brothers are here. We're all here.
Okay.
Yeah, but Ozzy's around, and then Austin, who works at Big Church, is also around, and Sylvester, who was one of the island scholars in his day. He's here as well after doing a stint in St. Lucia, coming back and so on. Then after that is David, who leads Institute. I believe I understand. Someone told me he was on today on the math program or something. I'm not sure. But he does Leeds Institute, and he's doing good at that. Providing a very important service to our people because education is very important to us. And then there was me, and then I have two other brothers after me, Avondale, who works with the port, and Chris Ford, who works with one of the hardware stores. And then there's my sister, who is a medical doctor by training, and she works with Ross University. So that's the family. I also have another brother, Cecil, who was an older brother before my father was married to my mom. He lives out in Massac. He himself has several children, one or two of just about my age. So, but that's the family. So we're all here at the moment. We're all here. You know, we have chosen, most of us, to be here and to stay or to return, because I returned, and we have had opportunities to at least some of us, to be out and stay out. But you know, this is our country. We love it, and we want to do everything we can to raise it up to the level it can reach.
You mentioned the importance of family, and you're a family man yourself.
Oh yes.
So tell us about your family.
Oh, that's the love of my life. Yeah, I mean, I have a wife, Flority. She's from St. Joseph, and there used to be this favorite joke with her when she was growing up. We were not married there yet, And when they would tell her she's from the country, she said, no, I'm from St. John's, I'm from the suburbs. Yeah, but you know, we have been married for a while now. So 20, how many years? My daughter is 23, for 24 years we have been married. And then my daughter came 1 year after that, Sapphire, who is a civil engineer. Her training just finished about a year ago, and wants now to go to a master's, hopefully in the area of environment. So that's my daughter Safi, and then I have two other daughters, Benita, who is going to fifth form at convent, and Femi going to second form at convent. So they are the absolutely love of my life. I don't want to say I live for them, but yeah, I mean, when I think of it, you know, I mean, it's just an absolute pleasure to go home. It's just lovely every time. You know, some people don't want to go home. I always want to go home. I more have to give excuses, you know, but I really want to go home because I really love being around them. We have fun. We pray to God at nights. Our favorite thing is around Christmas time trying to sing. You know, I say trying to sing. No, they sing. I try to sing. But you know, singing param and singing the Christmas songs and dancing together. Going out to the river. You know, we're doing some project right now in Formel, so we have our own little river spot that we can go to now. but you know, going out to the river, having fun together as a family, it's just beautiful. I mean, my kids were my first daughter was born here in Dominica. My second daughter was born in St. Kitts when I worked with the Eastern Caribbean. Eastern Caribbean Center back. And my last daughter was born in Barbados. So we kind of have Caribbean, a Caribbean family as well. Yeah, but you know, so their experiences have been out of Dominica for quite a bit of their lives. We have been back home for 3 years now.
3 years.
4 years, because my daughter has completed fourth form and now going to fifth form. And although I myself still go in and out because I have to do consultancy work, but they have been there and they're absolutely enjoying it. And you know, so it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Somebody on the Facebook Live comments referenced you as somebody who is quite humble. I saw you as someone who comes across as a bit unassuming, in the sense that you seem a bit reserved, at least my initial encounter, a bit reserved, but I suspect when you start to speak, it's a different story. How would you describe yourself? You know, if somebody were to ask you, who is Kent Vital?
Jeez, I got into trouble with that question earlier.
You did. I do not want to get you into any trouble, but I want you to answer.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I say about myself is that I love people. That's me. Maybe that's why you think I'm unassuming. But I love people. I truly do. So that's me. And as a result, and I think I have a wife that's the same in that sense. So we love people. So we love entertaining. We love looking out for people. I love looking out for people who especially, for some reason, cannot fend for themselves. I do have disadvantage in whatever way. And you know, throughout my life, my professional life, I have never ever gotten into any difficulty with any of my bosses for my own sake. Every time I have had to challenge anyone, it has always been in defense of somebody else whom I felt they were being trampled on or walked over. Almost always been in defense of someone else. So somehow I cannot help myself come into the defense of people who I think have been wronged, or people who I think have been disadvantaged, or who cannot help themselves. You know, so that is how I describe myself. I am not someone who I like people to feel comfortable, right? So you definitely won't find me saying anything to you or about you that would make you uncomfortable, right? So therefore, maybe first time I just relax a little, observe a little, but once you get to know me, you know, you most likely will enjoy.
You're a cool guy. All right, we're going to take a break, Kent, and when we come back, we're going to find out, because we're getting to know you. That's what this is about, getting to know you, and of course, we will get to the point where we talk about this new role that you've taken on, your plans, your vision, etc., etc. But we have to get to know you. This is what this is about. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about school, education. Apparently it seems to be very important when it comes to politics in Dominica. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Keep it locked. This is the In the Spotlight radio show with the new leader of the Dominica Freedom Party, Kent Vital. Thank you for choosing us tonight, and thank you for listening to tonight's program. Okay, we seem to be having a little situation with our laptop. Okay, desktop, we're not okay. Well, it seems we'll have to continue. We have a little freezing situation going on there, but it's all good. We have no issues. We can continue talking. If you'd like to take a sip of water,
Thanks.
you can do that as we continue here with the program. Good night again, everyone, and thank you for being with us. Somebody says Kent is a man of honor. Worked with him at ECCB. So proud of him. That's just somebody putting a comment there on the live feed. So Kent, let us continue talking. So you mentioned Dominica Grammar School, and let us talk a little bit more about what Dominica Grammar School was like. What subjects did you do? What did you like at the Dominica Grammar School?
Well, I remember that time we had a very funny, I wouldn't say funny, but we had the notion that business subjects were easy and science subjects were hard.
Yes,
we also had
we always thought that the smarter children did the science subjects.
The other thing is that we sometimes felt that if you did business subjects, you could easier get a job. These were the things that you needed guidance on. Yeah, and we all proven wrong. But first, second, third form, of course, these are these forms where you do all subjects in common, and then you really begin to specialize from fourth form. But I remember having those myths and initially veering towards business subjects, and then when I got to fourth form, I'm like, no man, I got to do a little bit of science. So I remember taking up physics. So by the time I got to fourth form, I was really doing business and physics. So I kind of had a blend between business and physics, which I continued in fifth form. Now, as a matter of fact, if I remember, we had to do biology, which I did, and physics, and then we had to drop one by the time we got to fifth form. So I had to end up dropping the biology because that was what I was least interested in. And
you were not interested in the human anatomy?
At the time somehow. And then, but to do that, I had to, I'm not remembering everything clearly, but I remember having to take up an extra subject. But it may have been physics in fifth form. And then I ended up doing 8 when everybody else did 7. But as a result, I had to do one subject all on my own. But anyway, that's it. But I ended up doing a combination of science and business. So when we left grammar school, we went to sixth form. And then I ended up doing economics and maths. So that's the business side. And then physics. Again, a weird combination. I had to continue to do that. And then time came to decide to go to university, and I applied to UWI to do. By that time, I had totally converted to science. I really wanted to pursue science. We really wanted to pursue engineering, and I applied to UWI St. Augustine to do which one was it? About an engineering course. And then I'm like, no, you need to have chemistry. And I never did chemistry. So I'm like, wow, man, because by that time I already, come right over and really wanted to, I wish I'd done chemistry at the time. It's not a regret because I'm really glad the path of that in my life too. So as a result, I said, well, since I cannot do engineering, then I will do the other thing that I liked, business. So I decided to do economics. So when I moved on to university, I went to Cavel and I did a degree in economics. Again, loving the maths aspect of it, I started up doing economics and maths. But then realized later on that really was doing the maths because I loved it, and really I really wanted to focus on the area of economics, which I totally enjoyed. So in the end, I ended up specializing in economics at the University of West Indies through a scholarship through the government of Dominica, and that was facilitated by the government of Canada. So I got that chance, got that opportunity, went on at UWI. Again, these were just very, very important years for me. And met a number of great people who have had an influence in my life since then, including the great lecturer, Dr. Samuel, who is an economist at the IMF at the moment, senior economist. But before he moved on to the IMF, he was the director of economics at Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. But these great people, these great lecturers, it was really nice interacting with them when they were at the university and so on. So these were beautiful years at UWI. You know, that experience, I would advise everyone to get the university experience. I'm not sure what it is like outside of UWI, but I could tell you, being associated with fellow Caribbean people was just a beautiful experience. The social interactions, but also the intellectual stimulation was just great, and the Caribbean spirit that it created was just beautiful. So my major was in economics at the University of West Indies. Then came back to Dominica, worked with the statistical unit at one point for a short while, then with the Aid Bank for a short while, then with the National Development Corporation, and all along wanted to do my master's. But then you know, you would have had to resign, or if there wasn't a scholarship, it would have been difficult. So then I chose, although I had applied to Bradford and got accepted at Bradford in England to do a master's in development economics. So you see, my interest in development started from working with the NDC in development economics. But then, given family and housing and loans and so on, I said, look, that's maybe not a thing I could do at the time. So I chose, therefore, to do my master's instead of the University of London as a distance student. University of London is a great school. So I did.
So you did long distance?
Yes, I did this while I was working with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and I did my master's degree in financial economics. Wasn't quite my original plan in terms of development economics, but I did financial economics. But at the time, it was very, very, very useful. Having been working at the time at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, it was totally useful and important for me at the time to do financial economics. But of course, since leaving ECCB, I've not practiced banking. I have moved on to, banking, financial in that sense. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was about to ask you, how were you able to balance work life and study life? Because it could not have been easy doing a master's degree and doing the job that you were doing at the ECCB.
Yes, it's very difficult to do. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. You know, some people think that it's maybe a walk in the park. It's definitely not, because I would say it's more difficult than actually going on site, where you have maybe the resources of lecturers at your disposal. Although we did, through what I did, I could have opted for that, but it's quite difficult to do. However, I actually worked at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank at that time, so a lot of the stuff that I did resonated in terms of my work. So that somehow made it easier, I would think, but it's not something easy to do. But once you're determined to do something and you put your mind to it, you can do it. You know, if you've got the gift for it and you're willing to work hard, it's within your grasp. So it was difficult, but we got through 2 years.
In 2 years?
Yeah, which is the minimum time that you could do it.
Oh my goodness. I hear what we were doing masters in 3, 4, 5 years even, and you did it in 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I heard today that you all are a bright family, so I presume that sort of assisted in the process as well. Something like that?
Well, as I said, you know, if God gives you a gift, you thank God for it, and you've got to use it to bless other people. So thank God for the gifts that He has given to us. I don't see it as something to boast, but definitely something that I want to use to bless people.
How have you been able to use your skills as an economist over the years?
Well, in several ways, but the two things I remember most. When I worked at, well, of course, the foundation, years were working with the NDC, and it was totally beautiful working with the NDC. I remember that's NDC, for those of you who don't know, is the National Development Corporation. It's now defunct and replaced by the Invest Dominica Authority and Discover Dominica Authority. These two institutions, the essential functions once was performed by the National Development Corporation. So so working there was very useful, where we were able to work with investors who had applied for fiscal concessions. We were able to work with them, provide advice, and make recommendations to the government for the grant of fiscal concessions. So that was a start of it. But having done this, the opportunity came to work with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and I moved over and functioned as an economist there. But one of the things I remembered most from then, one of the contributions that I'm very proud of, was when I was assigned to cover Dominica. As at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, we were assigned to different countries. The first country I covered was Angola.
Okay.
Right, and then after that, I covered Dominica.
You did?
Yes, Dominica, and then you backed up other countries. There was Dominica and another one, but anyway. But I did cover Dominica, and at the time Dominica was going through real challenges in the area of the fiscal.
That would have been around what time?
That was around 2001, 2002.
Okay.
That was a time when the government was hardly able to pay salaries. That was a real difficult time for Dominica. And hard decisions needed to be taken, hard choices needed to be made. And then Dominica was led by Rosie Douglas at the time, but I wasn't, not Rosie. It's all right, Rosie at the time. I wasn't covering Dominica by the time when he was leading Dominica, but those difficult times started around there. And then Pierre Charles came in, and that was when I then was covering Dominica on behalf of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. But the situation was so difficult, and being the economist and that I am, and the kind of person that I am, I essentially provided leadership to a team, because at the bank we did what we call financial programs for the countries. Essentially, these are sets of projections of the macroeconomy. So we would project what GDP, the national output of the country, would be like over the next few years. We would project how the government finances would likely be over the next few years. We would project what we call the balance of payments, that is the amount of foreign reserves that the country can earn by selling bananas or whatever the country sells. We would look at the banking system in terms of the stability of the banks, the ability of the banks to borrow, the amount that they borrow, and so on. So we would project all of these accounts to sort of judge the health of the country and the economy. And of course, when we did so for Dominica, it was a very unhealthy situation, especially in terms of the fiscal and the prospects for growth and development. So essentially led a team and said, no, this cannot continue. Dominica cannot continue like that. So we had to devise a program to arrest the situation. So the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, along with Caribbean Development Bank at the time, I didn't work with them then, right? And the Ministry of Finance at the time, we came together in the team, and we crafted this program to try to arrest the situation and change and turn it around. And at the time, the great Pierre Charles understood that what we were trying to put before him. I remember coming down with the governor, now deceased Dwight Venner, and we had a presentation of that program to the government. And the great Pierre Charles at the time had the kind of statement type of leadership that it took to say, look, something is wrong, we've got to take actions. And he did. He accepted the program. As a matter of fact, that program became essentially the tool or the basis for the negotiation between Dominica and the IMF in terms of the IMF program that they subsequently went into. So that, to my mind, was one of the things that I have been very proud of to be a part of. For me, unfortunately, though, that it's not just about stabilizing the fiscal. That's an important place to start. Once you have stabilized your finances, the next thing that is important to do is to cause the economy to grow. And at the time I had left, because CDB at the time, the guys who I worked with, the very guys who was in the team with me, said to me, guys, having seen my work, said, man, we've got a position coming up at CDB. Why don't you come over? Why don't you apply? And he told me, so I said, I'll think of it. I never did, because I really was enjoying working with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and contributing to Dominica. Then another time, maybe about 6 months later, he told me again, and he really encouraged me. Tell him, all right, man, I will. And then I sent an application, and they called me. The rest is history. I decided to move over. And in moving over, though, unfortunately, I was hoping that CDB would have continued to allow me to work on Dominica.
Oh.
And they didn't. And at the time, it wasn't a bank-wide policy per se, but in the Department of Economics, the director at the time had the policy, we want to assign economists to their own countries. So I wasn't able to continue the work on Dominica in that way, but I would have loved to, because I long realized that it's not just about the fiscal, stabilizing the fiscal and the government finances. That was very, very, very important to do that. But you needed to go a step further and cause growth, because the sustainable solution is when you begin to create growth. You would have to make some other bold decisions about the way you allocate your resources among the sectors and among the things you do. You would have to make that bold, make some more bold decisions in order to cause the country to grow. So I wasn't able to contribute in a direct way as I would have liked to, but I was fortunate, to be able to contribute to other countries' development. As we
go on.
Yeah, I was fortunate to be able to contribute to many other countries. So at ECCB, so although I did not get to be able to work on Dominica directly, I had the fortunate, I had the great pleasure of contributing to other countries. So I did work on behalf of the Caribbean Development Bank, monitoring St. Lucia, Barbados, Belize. At different points, other countries, but we visit countries, we gave advice, economic advice, we prepared strategies, economic, the bank strategies for assisting our member countries. So I've had the pleasure of being able to work with countries, to speak with governments, to discuss strategy, to sit with them during IMF, and then later on, 5 years on, deciding to return to participate in the political process, and then decided, okay, then I needed to still earn. So then decided to offer my services to countries in terms of building strategic plans. So I've done a few of those. They have been well received, and that has been, to my mind, another great highlight in terms of what I have contributed as an economist. The countries I've worked with have been very, very appreciative, and I'm still continuing to work with some of them, because it's not just about having the plan. After that, you've got to put in place proper systems for implementation, and we are doing that in the case of one country, and encouraging that in a few others. So that has been part of what I think I have been able to contribute as an economist.
And Dominica, of course, was dearest to your heart. You would have liked to continue working with Dominica, but wasn't able to get that opportunity at the CDB.
That's right. At the time, I wasn't able to. That was the policy at the time. All right. I think generally, they still generally in our department, still say, in the economics department, still generally don't really assign economists to their own countries. But yes, I didn't get the opportunity then. So when the chance came then, and that is why when the opportunity came in 2008, when the position of CEO of Invest Dominica became available, I jumped to the opportunity. That was 5.5 years after I joined the bank, or about 5 years after I joined the CDB. I jumped to the opportunity, although it meant taking up a job that paid me less. I felt it was a chance to pick back up from where I'd left off, having contributed to the strategy to address the poor fiscal situation. I felt, wow, what a great opportunity to contribute now to restoring growth. Not to growing, but I have to say restoring growth, because during the days of Mary Junior Charles, growth was great. Growth was, with bananas, with the agricultural economy in bananas, Dominica grew, very well. So the idea was, wow, what a chance to come back, and having worked at the National Development Corporation, understanding very well what it took to attract investments, because I worked there and we processed the concessions, and we saw let me correct myself, we saw many promoters, many of them who came and asked and got concessions, and often they were not really investors themselves. They didn't directly have the money. So often they wanted a letter in their hands saying that they got concessions, and then they would go out and try to get bona fide investors to join them. And often it didn't happen. So I saw what happened, and that what didn't work at all. right? And therefore, when the opportunity came to be the executive director of Invest Dominica Authority, when that job was advertised, I applied. And I was
You said this
given that
stint was
position.
short.
Yes. It was very short. I would stay down, if I believe, if my memory serves me right, 6 months or so. Right. I guess the question is why.
Following up. Why?
Right. So as I said to you, I worked with the National Development Corporation. I have seen the way we promoted Dominica, and I have seen over and over again that it didn't work. As people often say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
different
I
result.
know it didn't work because I worked there for 5 years. So when I did the interview, I suggested to them just that. I know it didn't work, and I believe I knew it didn't work because often, sometimes you would have had conversations and with investors, and in between you could see, and even promoters too, and even when some of the few bona fide investors come and you hear them and you really hear what they want. So I understood that. So for instance, I understood that not that we didn't have a great product, but that business follows business. So unless an investor already sees another investor in the destination doing very well, he's not going to take the chance. So I understood that. I understood, therefore, that you needed that first pioneer investor. And what would it take to get that first pioneer investor? I'm talking about the, if you wish, the larger, big hotel type investments or other projects. What would it take to get that first pioneer investor? And I realized what happened with the promoters. So having that experience and again having, and sometimes what we do, we in investment promotion, we use the same strategies that countries that are very successful use. How can you promote Dominica tourism investments using the same strategy that Barbados uses? Barbados is already a very successful destination. People would want to go there. You have to use it. You have to understand it's different. You cannot just copy the strategy used by Barbados or used by a country that's already. And then you have to go back in history and understand how some of these countries got their first projects. Because at one point they were maybe where we were. So you have to understand, you have to go back there. You cannot just look at what they do now and figure out, I am going to do the same thing. It's about strategic
And you offer
planning.
different things.
Exactly. Right? So it's about strategic planning. What is your constraint at the time? That's how you plan. You don't plan for what others do and do the same and copycat. It won't work. It might not work for you. Right? You have to figure out at the time, what is my constraint? What is affecting me? What are the things that I need to overcome that are unique to me, that are in order to do what it is. So when that opportunity came, I took it because I felt I could bring some policies on the table. So fast forward, I came, and I think there was a lot of excitement at the time. People were happy. I remember talking with the board of directors, saying individually, saying, the kinds of strategies I would be promoting, and people were generally very excited to hear that. Right? But a couple things. One being, again, remember I said as a family, I have been taught to respect the law. I've been taught to respect authority, to respect the law. And sometimes I found situations where it didn't look like we wanted to respect the law. Now remember, as I said to you, sometimes, because of where we are in terms of investment promotion, we do need pioneer investors, and you have to figure out what does it take to get the pioneer. So sometimes you need to give concessions or incentives that are special to the first or the second, pioneers. But sometimes our law doesn't allow it. So you cannot just ignore the law and seek to give concessions. Even if in spirit I agree and I believe that certain types of concessions are needed. And I remember trying to point that out. And people are like, well, how can you do it? I'm like, no, the law is the law. I am for going back and making suggestions for how we could change the law, how we could come up with special pioneer investments. But as long as the law exists, we're going to respect it.
And that was your view.
That was my view. I didn't get the sense that many people liked that view. So that was one of the examples. And then having set and I promised that within within 3 months. I would do a bare bones strategy because it's important to have that strategy and let's run with it, which I did, which many people were waiting for, and many people were very happy with, except 1 or 2 individuals, and we won't go into names. But I felt that we needed to look for Dominica, not for individuals. We needed to look for the interests of our farmers and not just be encouraging our farmers to sell their lands. I felt we needed to embrace the diaspora and have the diaspora involved in investment. Again, remember I was saying you have special circumstances. You are not necessarily a destination that everybody's looking to flock to. You have a great product, but you've got to convince people. Right? So I felt that we needed to embrace the diaspora in several ways. And there were 1 or 2 persons who just didn't see it, even if the rest of them, as far as I'm concerned, not that I want to go into any controversy over this right now.
No, we're not.
Right? But to me, it was just not being seen. And as I said, I came because I really wanted to help. So having seen the atmosphere and the attitude, I didn't feel that I could contribute in the way I really wanted to. And if I felt that there were genuine differences between what I was saying and the majority of the persons capable or who led the board, I would have been fine with that. But that wasn't the atmosphere I met, and I really didn't think it was healthy. And so at that time I decided that
quit?
I would leave. But I promised the people, it was on this very radio station, that I would return on my own terms. I would return because this is my country. I want to contribute. I think I have something to contribute. I love my people. I think we can do better. I think this country, if we develop this country, there will be no other Caribbean country that could beat us in terms of the kinds of tourism product that we can offer. But we have to be creative. We have to believe in ourselves, and we have to be creative. And we cannot do the same things everybody else does because they have a different product and they're at a different stage. So I promised that I would come back and contribute on my own terms.
And here you are. All right. We're still having a situation with the computer. So DJ Uzi on the outside, if you can hear me, please, I need your assistance in here. In the meantime, okay, you got me this time. Yes, please. No, I can't. Right here, we just have a little situation here. We're not moving. Alex Bruno, I would like to invite you to give us a call now as we're going to segue into the area that many persons want to hear about. Why the Dominica Freedom Party? Why politics? Etc. etc. So Alex, we're going to wait for your call. I presume you know the numbers, but I'm going to give it to you. The overseas line is 1305. Are we good? Oh, we're awesome. 1305-432-9624. So we are going to hear from Alex Bruno. So Alex, we're waiting to hear from you, but we're back in business with the computer, so let us take a break that we need, and we'll be right back. Keep it locked. Uzi!
Your suppliers of building materials and
It's not no, we don't. Oh, no, it's the whole what? Maybe 30 minutes or more. You want the funny thing?
27 minutes and then just call it for another 5 minutes.
Rudolph Thomas can meet all your wire needs.
I even sent a pen out on the door. There's a pen on the door.
I just come from the first score.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's what the phone message.
Okay. Alright.
So you got everything good?
I'm good for now.
Rudolph Thomas is your one-stop shop for
that's all
hard to
right.
find items like fiberglass mat and fiberglass resin.
The Facebook Livers always hear what's happening. They get the behind the scenes.
Okay. Uncut.
And me, I was trying to get your attention.
Is on. The 2017 Madam Walk Cultural Show is on.
Yes. Oh gosh, that was this funny. Good program as usual. I think my boy Rascally would like a dreadlocks play. Oh Lord.
Showtime, 7 p.m. The best of Dominica's culture will be on display as we celebrate 6 years of Madam Walk is out. The 2017 Madam Walk Canada Cultural Show, a hot contest of beauty, flair, and color as our lovely ladies battle on stage. There can only be one Madam Walk Canada. This year's theme is Viva Dominique, celebrating Dominica's unique Tickets are just $60 for dinner and the show. Saturday, September 23rd, the 2017
Uzi, is there a way that I can check a call before I take it?
231 Milner Avenue in Toronto, Canada.
Is there a way I can check a call before I take it?
Sponsored by
Check to know which numbers is it?
Like it's lighting up, but I wanted to know if it was Alex.
Oh, yes.
How do I?
Mommy, can I have a kitty tablet this summer,
alright?
please?
Child, no. I have to work on 1 month to pay for your school items and my education so that we can have a good life.
Don't worry, the National Cooperative Credit Union offers a learn while you earn loan on very special terms. You can work and further your education. Let NCCU finance your education. Affordable monthly payments, no fees, and free loan protection coverage. We also provide loans to study overseas and
This
to
is
cover
him?
school expenses so your kids can
Hey,
be ready
Dolly.
for September.
Mommy, can I please get the
Okay, hold on, okay?
Paracetamol.
Alright. Can you put your
Kitty, okay.
on hold?
Apply at any NCCU branch today for your Learn While You Earn loan. Call 255-2172 or visit our website at www.nccudominica.com.
Thank you. Minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. Good night to you again, wherever you are tonight, listening to the program with the new leader of the Dominica Freedom Party. This is the In the Spotlight radio show where we spotlight everybody. Last week we had Vina McDougall. Tonight we have the new leader of the DFP. That's how we do it. And anybody who wants to be here, once you have a story, hey, we'll facilitate you. Before we go to Kent and to talk to him about his decision and everything else that will follow thereafter, I thought it would be, important to bring on a friend, Alex Bruno. Alex Bruno is a student of political science, and Alex recently actually wrote an article entitled Bravo Dominica Freedom Party. It's an interesting article that Alex Bruno wrote, and so I thought it would be good to have you join us tonight. Alex, good night. How are you, Alex? We need to be able to hear you, okay? I know you have a strong, powerful voice. Yes.
Good evening. What's up?
I am good. We're having a good program. And Alex, as I said, what brought about this article that you wrote, Bravo Dominica Freedom Party, and in what capacity were you writing this article?
Well, I'm a political analyst of a board, and I communicated to political science. You know that I'm working on a higher degree of PhD, so I believe I make it my business to follow local, regional, and international politics. And whenever I feel so inspired, I write. This article came about because of a media headline I read in Dominica, which suggested or it stated that the Freedom Party is back. And upon reflection, I couldn't help but to ask the question back from where? Because my understanding of parties and political organizations and philosophy and government political parties didn't suggest that the party went anywhere. So I just wanted to make a contribution, and that's what the article was presented.
Give us some of the highlights of this article.
Well, even before I get into the article, I want to really commend Ken Vital on his ascendancy in Dominican politics.
Thank you.
And wish him well. Ask him to be a good chair. Taking a step that very few have. And he will soon, very quickly understand why many people shy away from electoral politics and even political leadership. But I suspect that he has the right temperament for the post, and I hope that he sticks with it and he represents the Freedom Party well. So Ken, congratulations, and
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alex.
you're welcome. So for you, in terms of the highlights of the article, I read the Freedom Party, as those people who have been long enough would know, and those who have studied politics would know, was a major political movement in Dominica. Still is. But it was at its height in the early 80s. Of course, having served in opposition for quite some time, and was able to be voted into power in 1980 after a very trying time in terms of Dominica's politics. And under the leadership of the former, and this is Daniel Jr., the party ruled Dominica for 15 years and was voted out of office, I believe, in 1995. I was a youngster then and involved and around the Young Freedom Movement. And there was something happening in Dominica in terms of the politics of the Freedom Party, which I didn't quite understand. Now I understand it then, having studied the Freedom Party for a few years now, that the Freedom Party under the Daniel Jr. represented a conservative movement, which was somewhat identical to Ronald Reagan's philosophy, where he believed that as a people, we should be governed by a set of principles and concepts and precepts that protects our ethnicity, it protects our cultural beliefs, it protects our way of life, and it makes a representation of it for the people on a grander scale. That's the Dominican Freedom Party philosophy. That's based on how I understood it. Then we had the Dominican Labour Party, which was a more liberal movement led by a number of leaders. And at the time that the Freedom Party came in power, I believe it was Michael Douglas. He died in 1992. Rudy Douglas followed him shortly after, and there was Patrick John before that. So the predominant philosophy of the Dominican Labour Party was more along the lines of liberalism and wanting to venture out and being a little more free in terms of the understanding of politics. So at the time when freedom ruled Dominica, the concept of conservatism was rife and good. But then came the United Workers' Party, which some say was a breakaway from the Dominica Freedom Party. Of course, Unity will never admit it. But a lot of the thinking and the ideas of behind the formation of the United Workers' Party would have been patterned on the work and the philosophies of the Dominica Freedom Party. And as such, this party was able to vote or to attract the people's attention to get the vote to get into political office. More better than what the Labour Party would have done, because the Labour Party tried for a number of years and was not able to do it. But the UWP came in 1988, they got into political opposition with 6 seats, and they came back the following elections to win the election. I believe that was based on the philosophy of the UWP, which they still maintain. But things changed. There was an amalgamation with the DFP and the DLP, and no need to rehash the political history, but ideologies will combine, and the Labour Party has been in power now for the better part of 2 decades. But the Freedom Party is bigger, their philosophy, their mandate still remains. And what has happened is the Freedom Party still enjoys the reins of power in Dominica in many aspects. The president of Dominica is a Freedomite. Of course, he eventually was ascended to the presidency, and I guess he, based on the terms of the head of state, he no longer has party allegiance because he's the head of state and he represents the people. But he came from freedom. The now leader of the Labour Party came from freedom. a number of the people who were involved and who were in cabinet now serving as ministers of government came from freedom. A number of people who were in statutory organizations and boards, they come from freedom. So, and I mean, just to mention a few. So there is this resonance of the essence of the DFP still active and alive. And if anyone would suggest that the Freedom Party mentality, the Freedom Party philosophy is dead, I mean, they would be wrong, because it is absolutely untrue to state that it is. Because of the amalgamation and because of the strength of the Skerrit brand of Dominica's politics, it would assume that, but it certainly isn't that, because if you minus the Skerrit factor from the Dominican Labour Party, you will see a lot of cracks in terms of the political structure of the organization that we now call the Dominican Labour Party. And that's not criticizing the party, it's my objective analysis of how things are. And so if you minus the Skerrit factor, I call it Skerritism, you will see that the Freedom Party is stronger than it is deemed to be lived. And that an amalgamation, which has been in place for a while now, if broken, could show a lot of support and strength for the Dominican Freedom Party. So in a nutshell, for Diana, that is what I was arguing in my article. And I am hoping that the other political observers and the political practitioners receive it for what it is. It's not a pitch for freedom or for workers or for labor. It's just an analysis, a political analysis of the state of affairs of the Dominican Freedom Party for what it is.
Alex Bruno, I really thank you for sharing with us on the program. Recently, you presented some results of, is it a survey that you had done? You did a nationwide survey, you presented the results here in Dominica. So you're very much into analyzing and reporting on political activities in Dominica, and I definitely respect your perspective and the view shared with us here tonight. So Alex, we're going to go back to our guest, and I thank you again. Continue listening and feel free to call back if you wish to when we open up the lines. All right, thank you, Alex Bruno.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on what he shared?
Yes, Mr. Alex Bruno's article is quite right, but I just want to add a few dimensions to this. Because you see, in the days gone by, when we had in the 60s, in the 70s, where we had the great parties in Jamaica, we had two distinct elements in our politics, two distinct economic philosophies being pursued by parties on the left, the socialist parties, or even communists in some countries in Guyana that were closer to communism, but socialism, let's say, and on the right, those who are closer to the Ronald Reagan type, parties on the right. We had that very distinct thing. We never really in the Caribbean had differences in terms, in any real way that came to public discourse, differences in terms of the social and moral dimensions, like the differences occur in the US. So for instance, there's a clear divide between the Republicans and the Democrats on some issues, and hence conservatism in terms of the social and moral aspects. So for instance, there is the issue of gun rights, that the Republicans favor gun rights, the Democrats oppose it. There's the issue of same-sex marriage. There are these social issues that we never really had a great divide in the Caribbean. We never had viewed this. Our differences politically were mostly on the economic front. Those who supported free enterprise or the market economy, and those who supported more government control and socialist type economy where government played a greater role. These were the two extremes in the Caribbean, and that played out over and over again. The latest one that resulted in some violence was the situation in Grenada, where we had a party on the left, a socialist party, taking power, and we know the whole history of Grenada, but those of us who are that age, younger people may not know. But we had that divide. But you see, what has happened, and ever since the demise of of Russia, of the Soviet Union, what it was called at that time, and I don't remember the detail. But what happened was that the world has come closer, at least in terms of economic philosophy, to the center. The world has recognized that you need a strong market economy. But the world has also recognized that you also need a strong government hand, especially to overcome certain things, what we call in the economic jargon, market failures. We also need strong government to provide where the market doesn't do a good job at doing that, where the free enterprise system. So we have all have come close to the center. So the truth is, these days, there is not, if you go from country to country to country, in Jamaica, that is not that great divide in terms of the economy, in terms of economic philosophy between the two opposing parties, which were miles apart 40 years ago. Same for Barbados, same for St. Lucia, same for Dominica. As a matter of fact, I was listening this today to the Honorable Prime Minister, and although I didn't agree with him because I don't think he was thinking strategically, but he was talking about how the government will not get into the business of the private sector. That is classical conservative center-right policies. So the truth is, all political parties no longer differ that much on the economic front. We have all come to the center when it comes to political philosophy. So the question being, these days, the issue is that we have now therefore have a set of parties. In some countries it's done better. I like what's going on in Jamaica, for instance. In Jamaica, they were able to come together when Portia Simpson Miller was Prime Minister some time ago and produce a vision document, a vision for the country that both major political sides were able to agree on. The government has changed about 3 times since then, and it is still the guiding vision document for the country. So Jamaica is maturing. So they have gone from the situation where there were huge divides between them in terms of socialist versus capitalist mentality, to the point where they are maturing to the point where they can recognize that we have a common vision. And they agreed around that. And then there was an IMF program that they formed a joint committee involving the private sector. And that has begun to yield results. We want that kind of thing in all of our countries. But you know what prevents it in some of our countries, and I would say in Dominica? Where you have politicians who have not made that leap to being statesmen and not being in politics because of politics, not being in politics for self-serving reasons. Some of us, we into it because we love the power that politics gives, or we are corrupt, to be quite frank, because we want the resources, we want the kickbacks and the paybacks and the under-table payments. We want to enrich ourselves personally. When that remains, now mark what I'm saying, when there are no real differences philosophically in terms of economic philosophy among the parties, and when political persons involved in politics refuse to be statesmen or not statesmen, then it degenerates into a tribal gang affair where people are in it because they want to protect their interests. And that is part of what is happening in our country, and maybe a few other countries, but definitely we can talk about Dominica. We have a sort of gang political culture. And not only that, when we lack statesmen, rather than leading our people out of that kind of mentality, what we do, we perpetuate it. So we perpetuate a sort of mindless politics, a mindless allegiance to political parties, that this is my party, and no matter what they do, no matter what wrong they do, we're not looking for the interest. So what we should really be looking for, now that we know that we don't differ that much, you know what we should really be looking for? We should be looking for the team that has, because even if we don't differ, but you still have to have detailed strategies. You should be looking for the team that makes the most sense in terms of the kind of strategies that they would use to take our country forward. We should be looking for as well the team that has the kinds of people that are people of integrity that will be able to deliver on those policies.
All right. You are the leader of the Dominica Freedom Party. Let us go back to your integration into politics. How did you get into politics?
Yes. Yes, I never really had a strong interest per se in politics. My strong interest has always been in helping my country move forward. That has always been my strong interest. Wherever that led me, that was what I was interested in. Initially, of course, it was through working for the NDC, through whenever, when I went to ECCB and contributed whichever way I could through the program as I mentioned earlier on. So I would look to help in whichever way I could, even in the area of culture. I did when I returned from university, did see the need for Roseau to get involved in culture and let me say hello to all the members of the Roseau Cultural Group. So I wanted to contribute in any way I could. And certainly I always wanted to contribute in the area of entrepreneurship, and I'm now embarking on some of that now. So I always wanted to contribute. But I always said, the day that I am needed in the political arena, I would present myself, I would make myself available, and that day has come, and that day came, and I'm working on it now. But what happened was that last time when I came back, because I came back and I saw the need, I saw the opportunity to contribute by applying for the job in West Dominica, as I mentioned, that I realized that I could not, the environment wasn't right to make the contribution I wanted to. And at that time I said I'd return on my own terms. Now my own terms could involve, in my mind, meant one of two things. Would mean coming back in entrepreneurship directly, because there's a place for demonstration, there's a place for showing what we can do as a people in terms of business, in terms of tourism. Too often we think somebody else has to come and do it for us, but sometimes we can do it in spite of the odds, in spite of bad government sometimes. Those of us who have a heart, we can still make a difference. Okay, so that was one, and the other area is in terms of politics. But I remember that time when I had decided to leave and I had said I'd return my own term, some persons began to speak with me. And I had some other friends who at the time were out working in the IMF and so on, that we began to speak about how can we make a difference in terms of politics. So that conversation started, and I became interested. At the time, there was beginning to be a conversation about how independence, and at the time I was interested in offering myself as an independent candidate, how the independent people can come together, encourage all Dominicans to come together to rescue the country. That discussion started to happen. So the persons began to talk to me. And then
we're talking about how long ago?
We're talking about just at the time, 2008, after I resigned. So that was, how long? 2008 to now is what? 7, 8 years now?
Thereabout.
Right. So that was when the interest started, when I left, and persons began to tell me, why don't you begin to get involved? So I started to entertain the idea in terms of direct involvement in politics.
So prior to that though, but were you, for example, were you a Labourite? Were you a Freedomite?
Never Labourite, never Freedomite,
Are you serious?
Never a UWPite. Yes.
So you were not in, for example, the Young Freedom Movement or anything like that?
No, I was never.
A lot of people, it starts there for them.
A lot of people start for them. And I remember I was quite young when the Young Freedom Movement was really vibrant.
So you're new to this?
I was quite young then. And remember too, I left to go to study in Barbados in 1990. Right? So I was just, 18 then? Right, so I really didn't have the time to really get into the Young Freedom Movement, right? So before that, I would have been in high school and sixth form, and then moved on to go to study, just around 18, 19 or so. So never really got a chance to really get involved politically in Dominica. And by the time I returned, the government that would have been 1990, right? So I never really was involved in politics in that sense, but my interest was always in helping Dominica.
Okay.
One of the first things I did, for instance, when I returned, not in terms of work, professional, traditional work, but recognizing that we needed to get people interested in culture. Culture is very important. Culture is very beautiful. And I remember at the time there was the summer school program that the government, well, that was the Union Trust government. They had some very successful summer school programs. And one of the things they taught was cultural dancing. I remember doing that course. And after doing that, I'm like, wow, my Roseau people are missing out on a lot. So we decided, why don't we get that group going? Why don't we get a group to involve the people of Roseau? Because culture is very powerful. Culture is very important. Culture is very important for identity, for national identity, for self-worth as a nation and as a people. And there are many other dimensions of culture. It's not just about the dancing. It's not just about the music. It's not just about the foods and the clothes. And we often think of culture in those ways, but I've since, and we include it in our strategies when we prepare strategies, realize that culture is also about the norms and the values, the social values that we embrace. And that is what a real relevant cultural division or department should also be doing. What are these cultural attitudes and norms and that we need to promote, and what are those that we need to adjust? And many countries have had success in altering negative cultures. Many countries have actively applied strategies, communication strategies, to change mindsets and to change cultures. And I'm seeing that we have a country where we need now to be doing quite a bit of that. We have had some mindsets, and some of them deliberately perpetuated by governments and politicians, that we have begin to change those mindsets, and we have to change the culture. So we have had a cultural reversal in terms of taking on negative cultures. We need now to reverse this again, and so culture is very important. So I remember contributing in that way, but in politics I never contributed directly to politics until I came back, and I realized the environment wasn't conducive to making my contribution to the IDA as I thought, and then I started to seriously entertain the idea of politics. Not only that, throughout my work as an economist, I've realized, working for the Caribbean, I've realized the greatest constraint to our economic development is our governance. And I would dare say, more than just governance, and they're all linked anyway, but political governance. There's the technical elements of governance, so how, for instance, you have proper budgeting and you have proper auditing and proper accounting. All of these are technical things that you need to put in place. You need to have proper systems, and when you don't have proper systems, then you give room for corruption. And how do you control corruption? There are these elements. That's why you need proper accountability laws and auditing and all of that. All of these are elements that you need to control, and these things set us back. But also our political governance, our decision-making processes are hurting us. I mean, we believe in liberal democracy, we believe in multi-party democracy, and we'll not replace it with socialism and one-party state like China and so on. I think there are great benefits in what we do, and even China is coming around, not in terms of the political system, but in terms of the economic systems that they're beginning to pursue. But we believe in liberal democracy, but there's a bit of an issue that we need to overcome, because what happens in our system, and sometimes it's made worse though when you don't have statesmen. But what our system does is that it causes us to compete for 5-year terms. And what do you think people do when they compete for 5-year terms? They do the things that will cause them to be elected in 5 years. That automatically sometimes means, especially when you don't have statesmen in our country, that automatically sometimes means that they pursue short-term goals, short-term re-election policies. And often, sometimes, these are not what we need to do to get the country where we want the country to get to. So that's a major issue with our political system, and that's a major setback. I've seen it in country after country after country, where our short-term competition for votes causes us to implement strategies that are not the best for the country. So what do we need to do? We need to think in terms of ways in which we can overcome that short-termism, if you want to put it that way. Ways in which we can have better processes for consulting, for instance, with the private sector. Other mechanisms that will cause us to take certain issues and come up with better ways of agreeing as a nation that these are the things that are important. These are some of the things I have seen in my work as an economist. And therefore it says to me that the political dimension is very important. You either, one, need statesmen, two, you need people who understand the importance of certain adjustments to our processes or our decision-making processes, and then we need to begin to adjust those systems so that they work better for us. So we believe in liberal democracy, but there are some adjustments we need to do to make it work for us. So part of my interest in politics have come about from my work as an economist, realizing that one of the greatest challenges and hindrances to our development is really our political governance.
Many believe that the Dominica Freedom Party is a dying party. It's almost non-existent. Alex believes otherwise. You mentioned earlier that you considered contesting as an independent candidate, but somehow you've come around to the Dominica Freedom Party. Many might be saying you're wasting your time. What are you thinking? What were you thinking? Why the Dominica Freedom Party?
Well, I'll tell you one of the things and the greatest thing that the Freedom Party has going for it, and which is what I value because it's how I was raised, right? Integrity. if we go back to the days of Mary Virginia Charles and we look at her time in office, you see a lady of integrity. You see a government of integrity. That is part of the reason, and that's what I was saying. When you don't have statesmen, our system is even worse. Okay? What we had was a party that had statesmen, a party where people will have such high integrity that they did what was right for the country. That is a thing that have remained with the party. So when they moved on, when they cooperated, if you want to put it that way, with first Rosie and then with Pierre Charles, they cooperated in the interest of Dominica with honorable men. Right? Now, when the new government after Pierre Charles came in, the party realized that they couldn't continue because they could. It wasn't in keeping with that platform of integrity that they were known for, and therefore they came out of the coalition. What remained was people of integrity. Some had left, but those who remained, great men of integrity, these were the men who remained. And that was, to me, the platform I needed. Because remember what I said to you. I realized that our political governance system is the greatest hindrance. But when you don't have statesmen and men of integrity, the basic ingredient for a statesman is that you have to have integrity. If you don't have integrity, you cannot be the kind of statesman that you need to be to overcome some of the deficiencies in our political and our governance systems. So what I found were men and women. And I agree with Alex. The philosophy never died. The Freedom Party pulled out to preserve that great thing called integrity. That is what I found. There were few men, but you know what? It's better for me to work with a few because it will always rise again. Alex is quite right. I cannot quite say it like Alex. It was never dead. You cannot keep something that good down. And what happened was that it was there. It was the work, the great work was carried through some great men like Boston, Johnson Boston, and Annette Saint-Hilaire, and at one point Judith is personally still involved, and Michael Astafans and Curtis Augustus. I met some great men and women of integrity, and therefore I said, look, this is the platform that I think I could build on. We have the history of the party, but we also had the men and women that actually demonstrated that great level of integrity, and that to me was very attractive. And of course, we could talk about the history of the party in terms of its delivery. Its delivery. I mean, Dominica did very well under Mary Virginia Charles. We all know that.
What was the approach? Were you approached? Did you approach? How did it happen?
Yes. Well, if I recall, at the time there was some discussion about how do we bring Dominicans together, whether they are those from the independents and like myself at the time, who wanted to help, or whether they were persons from other parties or whatever, the independent labor rights, the UWPites, the freedom rights, whatever. There was some discussion that was going on at the time, and I expressed interest in that discussion at the time. And then, you know, getting to know some people from the Freedom Party, began to realize that they were great people. They began to ask me about, you know, contesting the Rosa seat on their behalf. I mean, you know, I'm from Rosa Central. I love my people of Rosa. So I began to give it some consideration. The discussion also came up then that whether I would want to consider the possibility of contesting for leadership. So I took that into consideration as well, and I said, look, I think I am someone who can help in bringing people together. And I felt it would have been a good opportunity to help bring our country together. So I started to consider it at that time. Yeah. And
you had elections recently.
Yes.
And you were elected.
Yes, yes. So that was a nice experience, of course. The team that we have in the Freedom Party right now, it's a good team. Mm-hmm. You know, like all parties, we do differ. But one thing that we don't have in our midst is malice. people of integrity don't have time for hate and malice. We have time. I mean, we can differ, we can disagree, but at the end of the day, it's about trying to find the best thing for the party. But more than that, just that, what is the best route for Dominica? What is it we need to do? What is it we need to put on the table? What is it that we need to argue about? What is it we need to bring to the attention of the people? And we do so on our radio program, and we do that. And but it's done in quite a lovely spirit of camaraderie among the current team members, and so it has been a wonderful experience leading up to the convention. And then we started going out. We started going out to the field, and we started talking with the people in Soufriere and Cottage and Grand Fort and Castibros, and we started going out, and we started people saying to us, wow, boy, this is needed. We need to get the Freedom Party not back, I agree with you. but let's start to really get it back in the sense of the level of activity that once existed. And so we became very, very encouraged. And of course, the radio program has been great. So through the radio program, through going out to the field, through the positive feedback we have been getting from the people, all of that has been exciting and has led to the delegates convention.
All right. Okay, we don't have much time, and we still want to hear from Kent about his plans and so on for the party. But we also want to take some time to hear from you as well. So we're going to take some calls: 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097. The overseas line is 1-305-432-9624. I'm going to ask one thing of you, that you keep the questions or the comments short and to the point. Would appreciate that greatly. Let's take our first call. Good evening. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
All right, thank you so much. Hello, good night. Hello? Please do not try to listen to your computer, listen to us. Hello? All right, please feel free to, yes, go ahead, caller, please, yes.
Good evening. I'm pretty well, thank you. How are you?
Freedom Party came in when there was a void in 1979 after the downfall of the Freedom Party, of the Labour Party, after the 47th day strike. And Mamo said, no, we're going to call it elections in 1980. And we had the interim government. People with no history is like a tree with no roots, and you need to get back to your roots. I'm about your same age, and I have those histories. Get to know your history, and let's take the Freedom Party to the next level. Good evening.
Thank you for your comment. Indeed, we still have some of that history right in the party continuing with us. The great, what's her name? Our great lady, Annette Sentile is part of that. And Bossa was very young then, but Bossa is still there. But one of the persons, when I came in, he was still there. The late Carbon, Mr. Carbon, who died about 3 years ago now. I mean, time has passed. He was one of the great guys that also attracted me to the party, because when I came in, Carbon was one of the faithful men and women who had remained with the party and had continued to hold that flag up high. And so he was a great man. I've had a chance to also interact with Brian Allen, and what part of what we have done too when we have gone out to the outreach, the men and women who were part of the older persons, we don't just go to the new persons, we also go to the stalwarts, even if it's just for a courtesy call and sit down and speak with them, and we get some of that history. So I appreciate what the caller is saying. I accept that definitely. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Hello, good evening to you. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you.
That there's a reason why I will not support the freedom party. And we usually say, God, but not forgotten. That is because of the vindictiveness of the late Dame Mary Eugenia Charles. Furthermore, maybe you not directly, but indirectly, you might have suffered from that vindictiveness.
I know what happened.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that is what I was beginning to say earlier on when I suggested that sometimes we perpetuate mindless, sorry for using that word, but allegiance to political parties. Now, every political party have had a time when they maybe did things that some people didn't agree with, right? But political parties change, political parties move on, new people come on the scene. Now, are we going to say, because 20 years ago, I was done this by this person, but now that we come forward 20 years now and we have this new person or we have this new group and they are proposing some great things that I know will work for the country, will help the country, are we going to say, but 20 years ago, I was victimized and therefore I will never support the party? Or let's turn it the other way around. If 20 years ago, 50 years ago, you got a house or scholarship and you're grateful to the party for giving you a scholarship and a house, come 20 years now and you're seeing that the party is not doing what it takes to bring the country forward, or for your very children and grandchildren, are you going to say, because I got a house 20 years ago, my mother got a house, I will always support the party, even if my grandchildren are going to be hurt by what this party is doing? You see, this is the kind of allegiance that we have to come against. We have to begin to say, no, we are going to select a party, a team, based on its merit. One, based on what it says it will do. Two, based on its track record, because the party in power, you have to look at the track record. Someone can keep coming and tell me I'll do better next year and never do. And you never see the result. And three, you have to do it based on the team. Now, that's not to say that a party shouldn't look back in its past and say we have done some things that we shouldn't have. And I could tell you, I've heard great stories of Mary Eugenia Charles, but if she have done anything that was vindictive, if I may and I could, and say, well, sorry, she shouldn't do that. But come fast forward, we have a party that had good results then, and we're not dependent on that. We are saying, look at the spirit of that party. Look at the integrity that party carried. Look at the new men and women that are coming on board, who are learning from these past stalwarts, who are taking forward that mantle and saying, look, our country can do better. Look at the team. Judge them on the merit of their message. Judge them on the approach that they're taking. Judge them based on the messengers that they're bringing to you. And let's not just say, because you gave me a house 10 years ago, I must vote for you. Or because you did this to me some time ago. No, we're only hurting ourselves when we do that.
Caller, good evening. Thank you for holding. All right. Yes, please.
Thank you.
You know how it is. You know how it is.
How do you think our prejudices and hatred may have contributed to our demise where we are right now? And two questions, I think. The formidability of the vice-president administration, how difficult and dangerous and well-oiled financially using the resources of the state, where they are. you do not have to give your definite intentions. Do you consider a level of collaboration or cooperation with the parliamentary opposition to get rid of that monster we all have created, whether directly or indirectly? Thanks a lot. God bless.
Yes. Well, certainly, that's one of the things we have been talking about, hatred, and that's one of the things that we have to fight against as a people. And I think it has set us back quite a bit. And continuing from the previous caller and just continue to make a decision, we shouldn't be making a decision based on any kind of hate. We shouldn't be making a decision based on mindless political allegiance because this is my party, no matter what they do, they can never do anything wrong. And because we behave like gangs, right? It becomes and hate becomes part of what we perpetuate. You know, gangs hate each other, that kind of thing. But that is definitely has set us back. And as a people, we have to determine. We will make a judgment on the party to put in power, the group to put in power, based on their strategy, based on their message, based on the messengers, and so on. Now, the Freedom Party has a certain brand that it wants to bring to the table. The Freedom Party has been pursuing an approach that we think people are happy with. People like what they're seeing. We have been beginning to attract messengers, and we will continue, and we have been speaking to many people, and we will continue to speak to those. We have a good message. And our focus is to continue to bring that message to the people. Dominica is always our interest. Dominica is always foremost on our minds in terms of our interests. Our view at the moment is that what we bring to the table is very good for Dominica, and that is what we're going to do. We're going to bring that interest to the people of Dominica. That is what we're doing. We are not considering any coalition. What we are considering is bringing our brand to the people of Dominica. Now, the people of Dominica needs to make a choice. There are other brands, there are other approaches, there are other people. We need to make a decision about it. And I think the people of Dominica are wise. If they have good enough choices and alternatives, they will make the right decision. We don't have to force upon them necessarily what other people want. And we think what we have been hearing from the people is that you have a good message, you have a good approach, you're beginning to get in good messengers. This is a good winning strategy for Dominica, not for the Freedom Party. For Dominica, because we don't want to win for our own sakes. Because if you want to win for your own sake, you're into it for the same reasons that many other people are into it for.
Good evening. Hello? All right, all the other lines are lighting up, so let's see if we can take this one. Hello, good night.
Thank you.
Regarding that, I think it's a couple calls away before Blessing called just now. To the people that keep invoking Baby Gina Cha with their misplaced anger, I think they should project it into some kind of positive energy and start looking to develop this country, looking to do something better for Dominica. Just let her rest in peace, please, and think of the now. Think of now and what they can do to help Dominica. I'm listening. Very good program. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, and we are going to take this call right here. Good night. Hello.
Good evening.
Yeah, the population is in want. And I think he seems to be a very objective person. But you know, in the field of politics, I think he mentioned that you do not support your party just to support your party. But you know, I think they're very losing things because in politics, maybe it doesn't have to be aggressive. How do you see yourself making a change in the political arena? Because what I noticed, over the past years, we have had the government in office, and then you would find the opposition really would maybe oppose everything that the government does. You might not even think of one thing that the opposition has done to really support the government in any way. I'm saying, and I always hear the Freedom Party and the program say that when it is good, they support it. If it is wrong, they will object to it. How do they see themselves operating that same objective way in a competitive spirit where they have an opposition to another opposition party to contend with and they go to contend with? And how are they going to remain true to the philosophy that they're going to support what is good and oppose what is bad. I would like to see how he goes on.
Yes, yes. That's right. That's right.
All right, caller, thank you.
Yes. Thank you. And caller, I would like to add a little bit to what you're saying, you know. The moment you see I am deviating from that, I give you the chance to call me up and say, you remember what you said? But the only way is to look at us, look at what we do, see if we continue in the same way, and then well, then you'll make your judgments then. But I have every intention, given my upbringing, given my zeal, to continue in that vein. Right? If something is good, as the Freedom Party have always said, we will say it's good. Right?
I have a question there from Facebook Live. What is the main area that the DFP will focus on to grow the economy and provide jobs? Okay. I know we probably would not be able to get into those kinds of things tonight, and that kind of thing you will deal with on your various radio programs, but we will address the questions as they come.
Yes. Well, let me just say then, for those of you listening, that we will be having our press conference tomorrow at 2 o'clock. At the Gallery Hotel. It will be carried live on Q95. It will also be carried live on Kyrie and on DBS. So please do listen. Mapping will be taping it, and at some point we will bring it to you on Mapping Television as well. What we're going to start to do at that press conference is to begin to talk about the vision for Dominica. And we are going to touch on a few areas where we think we can go forward. The things that we think that are important to the people, the things that are important we see as a party that's important to take the country forward. So we'll begin to talk about that tomorrow. So we will talk about, for instance, the opportunities in agriculture. We'll talk about the fact that Dominica can become this tourism destination that is second to none in the Caribbean. We'll talk about the opportunities in renewable energy that we need to embrace. We'll also talk about a few other areas as well. But listen on tomorrow. And you will hear. What we will most likely do as well is repeat some of those things on our own radio program, and then we will use our radio program. But we'll make a solid start at presenting our vision, talking about the vision for Dominica, and beginning to talk about some of the things that matter and some of the things we need to do. We cannot deal with it in a very, very, very comprehensive way, but we want to make a start at it in our program, in our live press conference, and continue on our radio programs as time goes by.
Caller, thank you. Good night.
Somebody with something like if he'd say or would know, and then in the long run he did something wrong, will ask us to call unto him to remind him. Even though we call them and remind them and then forward, they do whatever they want. Because Kerry said the same word.
All right, caller, thank you for making that comment, because that's a very important comment. But you know, that's why we have an electoral system. And if we were to really do our politics the way it should be done, some of that won't happen, you know. Let me tell you what I mean by that. What our democracy should do is that the moment we see someone is not going the way that is right, we should send the signal to them in the elections. If we do that, we will better keep political parties on their feet. We will keep their feet to the fire. But what has happened is that people begin to behave like political gangs, and therefore, no matter what they do, people support them. So therefore, there's no accountability, there's no responsibility. They say what they want at the beginning, but because people cling onto them like some sort of gang, then they seem to do whatever they want, and that those persons, don't see the need to vote them out, and therefore they begin to use other strategies like cheating and bribery. They begin to use those strategies. That is why I'm saying, as a people, we have to use the electoral process. We cannot just have allegiance to our parties. We have to send the message and send the signals. When parties are doing good, great. When they are not doing well enough, we need to let them out. And I'm telling you, if I'm elected, if I do not do well enough, send the message. Before we get there, talk to us. I will guarantee you, I cannot guarantee anything, but I will do everything I can to have a listening ear. And if we don't listen, if we do not reason, and if we do not show good reason, then use the electoral system and vote us out.
Good night. Hello. Good, thank you.
Good night.
I was about saying that sounds like you.
People can go and give their point of view and it can be explained. The point Ken just made a while ago is so important that people should not see themselves as spectators in the political process. They must see themselves as full-time participants. And therefore, if they do that, the politicians, the government, the opposition, no matter who are in politics, will take heed. I'll give an example. In Barbados, there was an election where the Barbadians felt that Irwin Alpha done so well. The economy had grown, the Barbados airport has been improved tremendously, tourism was on the swing, the economy was high, and there was an opportunity to give Irwin Alpha a third term in government. And then he made a point on the platform, he said, as long as I'm alive, David Thompson will never be Prime Minister of Barbados. And Bajans took that so hard, they said that they are the ones who elect members of parliament, who elect government, who elect Prime Minister, and therefore that was the role of Irwin Alpha, and therefore Bajans rallied against him for that statement. I remember I was in Barbados and I was at the home of a Bajan family, and they said to me that they are BLP supporters, Barbados Labour Party supporters, and because of that statement alone, they voted not against their party, that is the one their party, but they voted against that statement and decided to send the party out to reform, to rethink, to reorganize, and to come back and so forth. So the people have to be involved. Then, according to the point about Eugenia Charles and what she did, I mean, every party has certain things in their history they're not proud of. And I will tell you, we have always a law program. We are thin, but our work and our goodness for the country surpass the errors that we have made. And I think we have to focus on going forward. We can't stay stagnant, repeating old things, because I voted in election for Brian Allen in Maho. I voted for the Labour Party in Maho, and when the Freedom Party decided to come to work with them and so forth. Then we have seen the errors of the Labour Party, and therefore I have decided, and the rest of us have decided, to leave it alone and rebuild our party. So therefore you focus on what is right for the country, and if it's not working, because you get out. It's only a fool or a dead person who can change his own mind. Thank you.
Thanks. That's good. Thank you, the great Johnson Boston. Thank you very much.
And we're going to take our final call and wrap up the call segment of the program, and then we're going to get some final comments from Kent. Final caller. Hi.
There's a common difficulty you're facing. You have an administration that is going to come with national ID, not wanting to totally be clear about electoral reform. You all have not to shout about it, but is there a point where on some commonalities or some common ground, there, if need be, there has to be a form of collaboration instead of, we all selling our message, or people have a choice. Everything is dealing with something that is so blatant and brutal. I don't know if it is inescapable for you to come with a thing about everybody have their choice and everybody have their brand, but we have a common enemy of the state, and how are you going to collaborate to deal with that? That's what I want to hear.
Right. Caller, we as a Freedom Party, anything that's of interest to Dominica, we will deal with, and we will address, and we will get the people to come on board and to try to have a common platform. Now, this one issue that you mentioned is one of those kinds of issues that we cannot tolerate bribery, and we have said on our program several times that bribery, we will not as a party ever accept this attempt to put into this new law. Now, everybody who has that view, of course, it means that we are on the same platform. It means that we are all contributing to Dominica in that sense. So we have no difficulties with that. There will always be common issues. As a matter of fact, let me tell you what the foolishness sometimes that some of our politicians perpetuate. That the fact that we agree on an issue, all of a sudden it means that we are colluding in the form of a common collusion. What we're saying is that we are presenting, in terms of a political party, we are presenting a brand. We are presenting an approach that we love to the people. as a political party, and that's our focus. As a nation, there will be issues that everyone needs to be aware of and needs to be ensure that their voice is heard. Bribery is one of those kinds of issues, and as a people, we will not allow. So whether we are freedom rights, whether we are UWPites, whether we are independent labor rights, whether we are labor rights who understand that this is wrong, we have to let our voices heard on this issue. And there will be other issues like it. So we have no difficulties on issues that are important to the people of Dominica. And the Freedom Party will definitely continue to sound the tune to all of us that we cannot, in that instance, for instance, tolerate bribery. We will not. I'm telling you, we will not tolerate it. We will not accept that attempt to legalize bribery.
The phones are still lighting up, but we have to wrap things up here with Kent Vital. Our purpose here tonight was really to get to know the individual. We couldn't really get into the programs of the Freedom Party and all of that. As you mentioned, you have a press conference tomorrow. You have your radio program as well, where I presume you'll be sharing a lot more on that. But my aim and my focus, the objective of the program tonight was really to get to know you, the individual, much better, because there are many persons who are apparently, because you've worked out of Dominica for quite some time. And although you've been back, I guess we've not been seeing much of you either. But I suspect we're going to be seeing a lot more of you from now on.
Yes.
So I'm really happy that you consented to be here tonight on the program, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to share your final comments with us.
Yes. Well, let me shout out to all our young people. Since I've been back, and a little more lately in the last 6 months, I've been beginning to get to know our young people, because they're the ones who wouldn't know me that well. Many others would know me, but our younger people, some of them wouldn't. But we have had the pleasure of beginning to interact with some of them, and it has been a beautiful experience talking to young people. I mean, really nice, and we'll continue to do that, because you see, it's all about our young people, giving them the opportunities that they want, that they need, giving them a chance now to create a better Dominica for themselves and for their children. So, and you know, young people, so to speak, I don't want to say that they have better minds than us, but I guess some of us older ones, we are more seasoned. And some of us older ones, we're the ones who recall what parties did to us and what parties didn't do to us. And some of us older ones, we're the ones who tend to stick in our holes in our political parties and so on. But some of our young people are exposed to the internet. They see out there that our country is nowhere as close as they would like our country to be. They see that. And we cannot fool them. And what happens? They therefore, the slightest opportunity that they get to go, they go, and they don't want to come back anymore, because this country doesn't present to them the fulfillment of their ambitions. So we have been hearing that from the young people, and we want to turn that around. We want to say to them, we know you have to go sometimes to study, and we'll encourage that. And in fact, we'll even do everything we can to bring some more opportunities for young people to go and study. But we want them to have that consciousness that we can create that beautiful country. We can create that country that could be better than those that they see on television. I think we can do that. And we will work with our young people to create that. And those of us older ones, we have to think of them. We have to think of our children, because many of our children and our grandchildren are at those ages where they need to pick up the mantle, where we need to make the way for them. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the young people. Our young people are worth it. And we have to create a special space for them that they can go study, yes, but some of them would want to return and be part of this great country.
All right. Your final comments, I would presume, would it also involve saying good night to everybody?
Yes,
and
good
thanking
night.
them for listening.
Yes, indeed. Thanks and good night. And I look forward to also beginning to touch base with my people in Roseau. This is the place that holds great experience for me. And we will, be bringing back the love and the togetherness, and we'll be talking. Look forward to you. Yes.
That is a wrap. Well, thank you, Didi Easter. You did it again for Dinah. Awesome. Thank you. I tell people that my intentions with this program are good. It's not about politics. It's not about pushing anybody's agenda. It's about doing exactly what we did here tonight. So thank you everyone for listening to the program. We do appreciate you. I want to say good night to my assistant producer, Kadisha. Kadisha, thank you for your support in the background. And to thank everyone who supported or contributed to this program tonight. Mr. Vital, it was my pleasure to have you here tonight. And I really do hope that you enjoyed being here.
Definitely.
And that, you know, we certainly met our objective on tonight's program. Next week, Monday, we will be here with Archie of Point Michelle, Adrian Mitchell. We know him as Archie. Archie is a member of the First Serenade Band, and Archie has quite a story. And we will have him here next week, Monday. So make sure you tune in for that. Until next time. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Q95. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to DJ Uzi on the outside, who's supporting us well in the background. Our Facebook Livers, thank you so much for using this medium to link up with us through the program. Quite some nice feedback coming there. Great interview, my brother, etc. Good listening program. Quite a few nice feedback coming there. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your support. We thank you for listening. We thank you for viewing. Until next time, good night.
Yes. Good night.